Intimacy of touch with Moon in Capricorn. With the Moon in Capricorn, touch is measured before it is trusted. You long for closeness, but only when it feels earned, solid, and grounded in consistency. Your body remembers everything: who showed up, who withdrew, who broke their word. And because of that, touch must arrive with integrity. Not just warmth, but weight. Not just tenderness, but truth. Your moon doesn't melt easily, but once it does, it remembers how to stay. Physical affection for you isn't a default love language, it's a contract. A form of care that must be matched with reliability. You crave touch that proves itself over time, a steady hand that keeps returning, an arm that shelters you when words fall short. You don't respond to gestures that feel fleeting, overly romanticized, or impulsive. Touch must feel like a promise, not a performance. You often carry your emotions in your body, but you rarely let others access them. Your shoulders hold tension that goes unspoken. Your spine holds boundaries others never see. So when someone reaches for you, you scan for stability. Do they mean it? Will they still mean it tomorrow? Your moon, ruled by Saturn, trusts only what endures, and touch that shows up in hard moments means more than 1,000 kisses spoken in charm. You're more likely to offer care through action than overt affection. Fixing a blanket, making sure someone is fed, offering your presence quietly but fully. These are your forms of touch: practical, anchoring, deeply protective. But when it's your turn to receive, a quiet wall goes up, not out of pride, but out of a deep need to remain composed. You fear that if someone touches you in the wrong moment, they might unlock more than you're ready to reveal. There's a vulnerability in being touched before you're emotionally prepared. A well-meant gesture can feel like intrusion. A loving reach can stir up grief you've kept sealed for years. Your moon is cautious not because it doesn't want affection, but because it knows how much lies beneath it. Being touched, for you, isn't soft, it's seismic. And until trust is established, you may prefer space to touch that feels premature. But what you truly long for is safety in physical stillness. Someone who holds you without needing you to perform softness. Who doesn't flinch when your body stays tense for a while. Who understands that touch, for you, is a slow thaw, not a quick surrender. That your affection blooms in time, and that when it finally does, it's rooted, real, and deeply loyal. Your sensuality, though often private, is profound. When you finally allow someone close, your touch becomes intentional, almost sacred. You don't give in halfway. Your body speaks through containment, not extravagance. A lingering hand, a steady grip, a shoulder leaned into. These are your love poems. You may not initiate often, but when you do, it's with quiet certainty. For you, intimacy is an act of responsibility as much as passion. If you're touching someone, it's because you're ready to stand by the emotion behind it. And in those rare moments when you're truly held, without pressure, without expectation, something powerful softens in you. The armoring begins to ease, not because someone broke through your defenses, but because they respected them. Because they stayed long enough to prove that their touch isn't going to vanish when you're not performing strength. In that space, your moon finds the kind of closeness it trusts. Steady, earned, and finally, real. To deepen this intimacy, let yourself be touched when you haven't yet found the words. Let someone hold you when you're quiet, still calculating your own emotional temperature. Say, "It takes time for me to let my guard down, but your presence helps." These are not disclaimers, they're bridges. They guide someone into your world without forcing you to open the gates all at once. Because when touch is steady, patient, and clean of manipulation, your Capricorn moon can finally rest. Not because it has surrendered its control, but because it no longer needs to guard itself from love disguised as performance. In that slowness, intimacy becomes what you've always believed it should be, a bond built not on impulse, but on endurance, a quiet devotion you can feel in the bones. Intimacy of sensate with Moon in Capricorn. With the Moon in Capricorn, your senses are attuned to stability more than stimulation. You don't need a sensory whirlwind to feel loved. You need presence that grounds you. The way someone speaks your name with calm authority, the scent of clean sheets and familiar clothes, the consistency in someone's tone. These quiet signals are what make your nervous system feel safe. You aren't moved by flash. You're moved by follow-through. You experience the world through texture and rhythm, Not just what things look like, but how they hold. You notice how someone's voice stays steady when you're upset, how they smell the same each time they come home, how their hand doesn't tremble when they touch you. These are the small, solid cues your moon drinks in to confirm, I am safe here. Sensory intimacy for you is less about novelty and more about continuity. You don't open to just any tone, scent, or gaze. If something feels too emotionally charged, chaotic, or overly sentimental, your instincts may tighten. Sensation must arrive with intention, not just passion. You've trained yourself to ignore fleeting highs in favor of emotional architecture. So when someone tries to flood you with affection without proving their emotional steadiness first, your moon might turn numb instead of receptive. And yet, you're deeply sensual. You just keep it guarded. Touch, smell, sound, they all impact you more than you let on. A scratchy fabric can ruin your mood. A partner's distracted tone can pierce your calm like an alarm bell. Your senses don't want to be overwhelmed, they want to be honored. You thrive on subtlety, the warmth of shared coffee, the feeling of someone's coat against yours in winter air, the quiet strength in a lover's stare that says, I'm not going anywhere. Still, you often struggle to let sensation move you emotionally in the moment. Your instinct is to stay composed, in control, rational. Pleasure can feel like a vulnerability you haven't planned for. Even joy has to pass through a mental checkpoint. You may delay letting yourself enjoy what your body already craves, because part of you fears that once you let it in, it might vanish, or worse, expose your need for it. What you need is not intensity, but integrity. You need sensory intimacy that is consistent, mature, and grounded. You want to feel someone's presence, not just in their fingertips, but in their timing, in how they notice your moods before you speak, in how they kiss you without urgency, and how their body becomes a space you can lean on, not just lean into. To deepen this form of intimacy, begin by letting someone witness what soothes you. Say, I feel most connected when things are calm, when there's care in the details. Say, even the way you pour the tea matters to me. These are not small observations, they're revelations. They show others how to reach you through consistency, not chaos, and allow your own senses to speak more freely. Don't edit your reactions when something feels good. Let the smile come. Let the sigh happen. Let your body soften into the moment without preparing for what comes next. Receiving sensory care doesn't make you weak. It anchors you deeper into yourself. Because when sensation is offered with quiet precision and received without fear of losing control, your Capricorn moon finds what it has always needed. A kind of intimacy that isn't loud or fleeting, but steady and sustaining. A love you can feel in the silence, in the structure, and in the slow, solid beauty of being met again and again, exactly where you are. Intimacy of kindness with moon in Capricorn. Kindness for your Capricorn moon is not sentiment, it's structure. It's not grand declarations or poetic softness. It's reliability, responsibility, and care that shows up without being asked. You may not always look like someone craving tenderness, but underneath your composed exterior lies a quiet longing to be loved in a way that doesn't falter when things get hard. For you, kindness isn't in what people say. It's in what they do consistently, especially when no one's watching. You measure love through action. Did they follow through? Did they remember what you didn't say out loud? Did they take the weight off your shoulders without making a show of it? The smallest gesture, a meal prepared, a problem solved, a calm tone during your overwhelm, these become emotional anchors. Your moon trusts what repeats. You're not moved by emotional highs. You're moved by someone's ability to be steady in your storm. You are often the strong one, the fixer, the one others lean on, and so you rarely expect kindness to flow towards you. It can feel awkward to receive softness when you're so used to bracing, building, managing. Sometimes you dismiss it. It's fine, I've got it, because depending on others feels risky. You may have internalized the belief that strength is your worth, and kindness is something you give, not receive. But the truth is, your moon is quietly exhausted by always holding everything together. You long to be met with care that doesn't make you feel exposed, but understood. You want someone who sees your stress before you mention it, who offers help without making you feel incapable. Kindness, for you, is about holding space, without hovering, without fixing, without fanfare. There's also a part of you that associates kindness with debt. If someone is too nice, you may wonder, what do they want? You trust earned care, not instant affection. You need to see that someone's tenderness isn't a tactic, but a temperament, that they're not being nice to get something, but because they see you, respect you, and want to help shoulder the weight of your world. You also tend to offer kindness through containment. You don't rush to comfort with words, but you hold steady. You listen. You show up on time. You take care of practical things so others don't have to worry. These are your emotional offerings, acts of grounded compassion. But sometimes people miss the depth in them, assuming you're detached when really you're giving your love in the language you trust most: effort. To deepen this form of intimacy, let others know that kindness doesn't have to be elaborate. It just has to be consistent. Say, I feel safest when people do what they say they will. Say, when you remember small things without me asking, it means everything. These admissions don't make you vulnerable in a way that weakens you. They give people a map to love you well, and soften toward receiving kindness without earning it. Let someone carry a bag for you. Let them say, you don't have to do it all. Let them offer warmth not as a reward, but as a reflection of your worth. You don't have to prove your value to be cared for. Because when kindness becomes something you allow, not just something you give, your Capricorn Moon discovers a form of intimacy it never knew it was missing. Love that doesn't ask for strength first. A steadiness that matches your own. A care that doesn't crumble when you let yourself be human. And in that presence, you finally feel what you've built for everyone else. Emotional safety. Now, it's yours. Intimacy of growth with Moon in Capricorn. Growth for your Capricorn Moon is not a luxury, it's a necessity. But unlike signs that seek expansion through risk or emotional flooding, you grow in layers, structure, and long-term vision. You crave progress that's real, tested, and anchored in discipline. In relationships, emotional growth isn't about dramatic breakthroughs, it's about steady evolution. Quiet milestones. The kind of transformation that proves itself over time, not overnight. You find intimacy in building something that lasts. A relationship that matures, not just excites. You don't need constant reinvention, you need development. Conversations that deepen, not just spark. Patterns that shift for the better. You want to look back a year later and see how far you've come. Not in passion, but in trust, in resilience, and shared purpose. Your moon doesn't romanticize change for change's sake. It's interested in what endures after the transformation. But you often hold yourself to impossible standards in this process. You expect your own growth to be clean, linear, dignified. When it's messy, when you regress, feel emotionally out of control, or hit inner walls, you may feel ashamed, frustrated, even cold toward yourself. You don't always give yourself permission to grow publicly. You'd rather disappear, do the work alone, and return already evolved. You also tend to carry the emotional labor of the relationship's development. You notice what needs to change, you plan ahead, you offer long-term solutions. But inside, you may quietly wonder if your partner can or will grow with you. And if they fall behind, resist reflection, or avoid accountability, your moon begins to shut down. You don't expect perfection, but you do expect progress. There's a part of you that fears being emotionally left behind too. You may not voice this, but when someone outgrows a version of the relationship or themselves and doesn't bring you along for the journey, it can trigger deep insecurity. You work hard to improve and evolve. For yourself, yes, but also to stay worthy, to stay needed. Intimacy for your moon is closely tied to usefulness, and that can make receiving love during periods of emotional stillness feel uncomfortable, even undeserved. What your moon needs most is permission to grow imperfectly and to be loved through the process, not just after. You want someone who values your depth of effort, who understands that beneath your stoicism is someone constantly building and rebuilding a safer inner world. Someone who says, we don't need to be fixed to move forward. We just need to be honest. To deepen this intimacy, begin by letting someone see your growth while it's happening, not just once it's complete. Say, I'm working through something and I don't have answers yet. Or, it's hard for me to grow out loud, but I want to try. These moments make space for intimacy to form through shared effort, not just shared success. And allow your partner to grow at their own pace too. Offer your grounded wisdom, yes, but loosen your grip on the timeline. Let their emotional development look different than yours. Support it, don't manage it. Because when growth becomes something mutual rather than monitored, your Capricorn Moon finds the kind of intimacy it truly respects. A love that moves forward, not fast, but faithfully. A relationship that doesn't just survive time, but is shaped by it. Stronger, softer, truer, and still somehow becoming. Intimacy of activity with Moon in Capricorn. Activity for your Capricorn Moon is a form of emotional proof. You don't always say what you feel, but you do show it through effort, consistency, and presence in the tasks that hold life together. Whether it's building a piece of furniture together, managing a project, planning long-term finances, or just showing up on time, shared activity becomes a quiet ritual of trust. You feel closest to people not only in softness, but in doing. When hands are busy and responsibilities are met side by side, you're nourished by usefulness. In a relationship, this doesn't mean control or burden. It means purpose. You find comfort in shared goals, progress markers, plans made and carried through. If you're cooking together, fixing something, organizing your home, or problem solving with a partner, your emotional body feels safe. In motion, you express what words may hesitate to reveal. I care. I'm here. I'm committed. But you often take on more than your share. Your moon is wired for responsibility, so you might unconsciously manage the structure of the relationship, initiating plans, organizing the schedule, remembering all the details. If your partner shows up passively or inconsistently, it may not provoke anger, but quiet disappointment. Because for you, intimacy isn't just emotional, it's logistical. And when effort is unbalanced, it signals emotional imbalance too. You may not ask directly for help, but you notice who contributes. If someone offers to carry part of the load without being prompted, your trust in them deepens immediately. But when you're left to manage everything, resentment builds silently. You won't always speak it, but your withdrawal speaks volumes. Your moon doesn't need praise, it needs participation. Love to you means showing up. There's also a hidden vulnerability in your work ethic. You stay busy to stay emotionally protected. Shared activity keeps things moving forward, but also allows you to sidestep tenderness. You're more likely to propose organizing the garage than to sit still and talk about feelings. But in your heart, you long for someone who sees the intimacy inside that labor, who knows that your constant doing is a form of offering, not avoidance. You feel most emotionally bonded when a partner works alongside you, not just helping with tasks, but sharing in the invisible weight. Someone who respects deadlines, who honors commitments, who understands that a quiet evening checking off to-do lists can be just as sacred as candlelight and kisses. The substance of daily life, handled with presence, that's love in action, and it speaks directly to your moon. To deepen intimacy, let your partner know that showing up with you matters more than grand gestures. Say, I feel loved when we tackle things together. Or, it means a lot when I don't have to carry all the practical stuff alone. These are not complaints, they're doorways. They invite collaboration that strengthens emotional safety. And occasionally, allow activity to pause. Not everything needs to be earned. Let a day unfold without a checklist. Let closeness come through stillness as well. Trust that you're allowed to be loved when you're not producing or planning, when you're simply present. Because when activity becomes less about performance and more about participation, your Capricorn Moon finds the intimacy it's built for. Not fast-burning or flashy, but real, tangible, sustainable. A love built brick by brick in the small shared labors of everyday life. A devotion made visible, not just through words, but through work done together. Intimacy of allowance with Moon in Capricorn. Allowance for your Capricorn Moon is not simply about being left alone. It's about being trusted to move at your own pace. You don't open on demand. You don't unravel easily. You arrive at your own threshold slowly, deliberately, after watching, testing, and evaluating the emotional climate. To be allowed, for you, is to be given dignity in your process. No one rushing your softness. No one pressuring your vulnerability. Just someone who stays steady while you find your footing. You thrive when you're given space to hold your silence without suspicion, your seriousness without shame, and your boundaries without guilt. You've likely spent a lifetime managing expectations. At work, in family, in love. So when someone gives you emotional breathing room without assuming distance, it feels like a rare kind of respect. Your moon relaxes not in indulgence, but in earned ease, where no part of you is expected to perform emotional availability before it's genuinely there. But receiving allowance can also feel risky. You're used to being the composed one, the reliable one, the one who keeps things moving when others falter. To be truly allowed, you'd have to let someone see you slow down, grieve in silence, sit with confusion. That kind of exposure, even if accepted, can stir discomfort. You may worry that if you're not useful, you'll be abandoned. That if you show your fatigue, someone will assume you've stopped caring. So you continue holding it together. You armor up with structure, with effort, with responsibility. You take pride in functioning through difficulty. Yet somewhere beneath all that control is a quiet ache. Will someone ever let me just be unfinished? You long for a partner who won't mistake your pause for disconnection, who knows that your hesitance comes from self-respect, not emotional absence. Allowance doesn't mean disinterest to you. It means maturity. You don't want to be pushed into emotional expression or flooded with check-in conversations when you're still internally processing. You need a partner who trusts your rhythms, who can sit in your quiet and know it's not a door closing, it's a seed settling into the earth. You also give others a great deal of allowance, though often through doing rather than emotional language. You won't hover or rush. You understand timelines, internal seasons, delayed reactions. You respect struggle because you've carried so much of your own silently. But when others don't recognize that your restraint is also emotional labor, it can leave you feeling unseen and alone in your efforts. To deepen this form of intimacy, speak your need for emotional spaciousness. Say, "It helps me feel safe when I'm given time to process." Say, "I open slowly, but I'm always moving toward truth." These simple admissions grant your partner insight without compromising your boundaries. They allow you to be understood without explanation becoming confession. And let yourself soften into the allowance others offer. If someone says, "You don't have to have it all figured out," believe them. Don't assume their patience is pity. Let it be love. Let it be the very thing you give so freely, but have struggled to accept. Because when allowance becomes mutual, when you're permitted to be slow, private, serious, tender, and still held, your Capricorn moon finds an intimacy it can finally trust. One rooted not in pressure, but in patience. Not in emotional efficiency, but in presence. A love mature enough to wait and strong enough to stay. Intimacy of giving with moon in Capricorn. Giving for your Capricorn moon is devotion expressed through duty. You show love by building stability around someone, by protecting their time, their needs, their future. Your offerings may not always look romantic, but they are serious. A well-timed favor, a problem solved before it was voiced, a ride to the airport at 5 a.m. These aren't just gestures, they are vows. When you give, it's because someone has earned your trust, and you've chosen to invest your time, energy, and care where it matters. You don't give impulsively. You give when it's real. You may be slow to offer your resources, your touch, your time, but once you do, it's consistent, loyal, unshakable. This kind of giving builds intimacy through reliability, through showing up when others vanish, through doing the hard thing without needing applause. For you, love is proven over time, not through flair, but through follow-through. Still, your giving can become heavy when it's one-sided. You rarely ask for help, and often take pride in carrying more than your share. You might even turn emotional restraint into a kind of strength competition. I'll give more, need less, and that will protect me from disappointment. But deep down, there's a fear that if you stopped giving, the love might stop too. There's a shadow of conditionality that haunts your generosity. Not because you expect payback, but because you quietly track who shows up and who doesn't. You remember what you've done for others. You rarely demand reciprocity, but when it's missing for too long, your heart closes shop. And when you feel your efforts are overlooked or expected, it doesn't lead to confrontation. It leads to silent withdrawal. You're especially wary of performative neediness. If someone constantly demands emotional offerings without matching your effort in practical ways, you may question their integrity. You don't mind giving a lot, so long as it's not being taken without recognition. Because for your moon, giving isn't about control or reward. It's about building something mutual, something that actually lasts. But your care can be so subtle, so behind the scenes, that it often goes unnoticed. People may not realize how much you do for them, how often you anticipate problems, cover the gaps, handle what no one else wants to manage. And that invisibility hurts more than you admit. Because for you, giving is emotional exposure in disguise. You don't open through confession, you open through contribution. To deepen intimacy, let yourself be seen in the way you give. Say, when I do things quietly, it's not because I don't care, it's how I do care. Say, I need to feel like my efforts matter, even if I don't say it out loud. These truths don't weaken your strength, they dignify it. They help others understand that your love doesn't shout, but it shows up, and allow yourself to receive, even when you feel you haven't earned it. Let someone do something for you without interpreting it as imbalance. Let them carry weight without guilt. Let their giving be a reflection of your worth, not a debt you now owe. Because when giving is no longer a shield or a silent test, but a shared act of building, your Capricorn Moon finds the intimacy it was built for. Love that doesn't just pass through emotion, but materializes in the real world. Brick by brick, gesture by gesture, a love you can rely on, not because you gave it all, but because someone finally gave it back. Intimacy of receiving with Moon in Capricorn. Receiving love with a Capricorn Moon is like stepping onto a bridge you've built for others 1,000 times, only to realize now someone's walking toward you. You're used to being the giver, the one who anticipates needs, the one who stays steady while others waver. To be on the receiving end of care, softness, or generosity can feel unnatural, even suspicious. You're not sure what to do with it. You want to trust it, but first, you want to earn it. You often treat love like a promotion, something to be worked for, deserved, maintained through effort. So when someone offers affection freely, without you achieving anything, you may instinctively tighten. You might downplay your need, deflect their praise, or offer something in return too quickly. Not because you're ungrateful, but because receiving exposes a part of you that feels undeserving unless you've contributed something first. Your moon is ruled by Saturn, which means vulnerability feels like risk, not release. You associate being emotionally held with the fear of being indebted. You want to receive, but on terms that preserve your dignity. You need love to come clean, structured, and without strings. When it does, it can slowly melt the armor you've worn so long, you sometimes forget it's even there. Still, receiving often touches wounds you keep hidden. Accepting help might remind you of times when it wasn't there. Letting someone in may awaken grief about how long you had to go without. This is why kindness can sometimes make you cry more than cruelty, because it reaches the unguarded space your control has protected for so long. And yet, this is where the deepest intimacy waits, in the quiet moment when you allow someone to give to you without shrinking in response. You don't need lavish displays to feel loved. You need reliability, consideration, presence that doesn't waver when you're not at your best. When someone brings you soup when you're tired, or fills in the silence with patience instead of pressure, or remembers the details you never say twice, that's when your moon begins to believe. Maybe receiving doesn't mean losing control. Maybe it means being safe enough to let go. But you must also confront the part of you that equates receiving with weakness. That voice inside that says, if I need too much, I'll become a burden. That voice has kept you functional, even successful, but it's also kept you emotionally hungry. You deserve to be cared for, not because you've held it together, but because you're human. You deserve to be touched, not for your strength, but for your softness. To deepen this intimacy, practice letting affection land. Pause before you explain it away. Let someone help you without turning it into a transaction. Say, it's hard for me to accept care, but I want to learn how. Say, I'm used to being strong, but it means a lot when someone holds me too. These confessions don't make you fragile. They make you reachable. And let receiving become a gift you give back. When you accept someone's love fully, you show them that their effort matters, that their care has a home. And in that exchange, your Capricorn Moon finds a love that no longer asks you to carry everything alone. Because when receiving is no longer a disruption of your strength, but a deepening of it, you finally experience the kind of intimacy that anchors you from the inside out. A love that doesn't just witness your resilience, but nourishes it. Gently, consistently, without conditions.